It's only happened 6 times in Bitcoin's history, and it is perhaps just one day away from happening a 7th time.
Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let.
Welcome back to Krown's Clickbait Cave, where we get started for the early morning over here from a very overcast and even rainy Helsinki, Finland. It is literally May 13th. Yeah, May 13th. It's fucking May 13th and it's still snowing and raining here. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, as always, want to be wishing you the best, and the happiest. Want to get that out of the way early because, well, it's free to do, and why the fuck not, man? I think it can only help at least. Anyways, just as important, we want to go put the eyes on the Krown trading application, which can be found at app.krowntrading.net. It is 100% free, and I want to put the interest on the open interest right here. Still hanging around. That's, still hanging between the phase changers is what I'm kind of referring to them as. I don't really have a good word for that, to be honest with you, but realistically we haven't really seen any major differences with that, just kind of oscillating between 700 million and 900 million. What we really want to see is a break of the long-term range, which we'll talk about once we get into the charts a little bit later, plus a massive increase in the open interest, preferably at the very least above 850 million and even better above 900 million. However, this could also really confirm a much more scary situation, which perhaps we'll get into later, if we do see this come back down below about 700 million plus a few other pieces of price action being met as well. So we'll get into that later. I do want to also say that the crypto fear and greed index is ticking at a 41 right now, so up a couple points from yesterday. Still more or less, I'd really consider this neutral. I don't really have any major qualms with this or anything like that. It's more or less neutral to me. Bitcoin dominance, however, is rising, as we did say. We've been bullish on this one for a while. I'd continue to be bullish on it, and to follow up on the short-term, and I want to follow up on yesterday's short-term price action, because we did hit the top side of the short-term range, as we said was likely, as long as low-term time frame momentum also stayed up, which they did. So before we get into the actual price action charts, what else do I want to say? Oh yeah. I will not be on Twitch today. Still making use of all the rest of the setup here. As you can see, a little bit of a different angle these last couple days, but there's gonna be so much more soon. I'm really excited about it, and I'm also more excited to get rid of this absolute dump of a fucking computer. Not this one. This one's beautiful. This one's great, but the other one that's been taking care of the Twitch streams, not so much. Leaves a lot to be desired. That also reminds me that yes, I do have another channel. A lot of people have been asked about this. It's really cool to see that people are actually interested in something like this, but I totally understand that most people are not interested in like gaming, or for that matter, Total War, which is a completely different beast. But if you do want to check that out, it's on YouTube. It's the title of the channel is Total Krown, and yeah, I've been uploading videos there. My sort of goal for the next few years is to create a channel for all of the things that I'm passionate about in life. And right now, obviously finances for this one, then I'll have something like a gaming hobby, then I'll have like a health one, and then perhaps something else, like maybe mindset, because I do feel like I have some things that I want to document, not just to like get out there, but also so that I can keep track of myself. Anyways, I'm getting way off topic here. Most people don't give a fuck about that. That's completely fine, man. I'm not going to hold that against you. It's all good. I totally understand. I'm just that fucking nerd. But if you do want to head on over, check it out. It's Total Krown. And yeah. Anyways, looking at price action charts right here to reference the opening statements. What I'm talking about is the daily total golden cross on exponential moving averages. So as you can see, the green 55, and I'm actually using the 55 and the 200 right here. I prefer these ones more than the 50 and the 200, although that's technically your traditional ones. We are 1 day away at most from confirming a golden cross. Well, maybe 2 days at most, actually. 1 day probably does get it, though. With any sort of a daily total closure, especially above the 21 exponential moving average, the CLE moving average right here at about 86.50, we will very likely cross these babies back up to the upside. And this, to me, is coming off of a retest, not only of the golden cross right here, which we saw that last kind of dump dildo party to it, but also a reaccumulation along the 21, assuming that Bitcoin just doesn't close a daily dildo below it. So this is really important because it actually really ties off relates the lower term timeframes to the medium and higher term timeframes. And I do believe that, at the end of the day, if Bitcoin does end above the 21 here, which is currently at about 86.50, overall fine. And to kind of put this into a historical perspective, even on not so like great golden crosses, we've had pretty decent price action given upon that. Although there are a couple examples where it didn't work out all that well. So we'll go over that too. I want to have full disclosure here so that don't let me interpret these things for you. I'll show you it, and then you can make up your own mind. Golden cross happens right on over here, green and purple. Boom, nice move up from next low along kind of along the 21 to the next high, about 16%, a little bit under 16%. Death cross right there, nasty, very nasty. This guy right here was one before that in April of 2019. Again, same sort of thing over here, gets a golden cross, tests down to the 21, reaccumulates right there. It actually feels very similar to this, by the way. And what happens after that? Well, 171% run to the upside. Going a little bit further back into the annals of history in Bitcoin land, we do see, or were there any, yes, there was a one-off in 2018 actually. There was a trappy situation right here, gets a golden cross, and that was quite literally the high. Any sort of a buy after that would have been catastrophic realistically, if holding for even like a medium-term time frame trade. Going back a little bit further into 2015, 2016, we do see this example right here leads you all the way up from $300 to 20,000, so pretty good. I would consider this one a failure, although you actually do get a nice move after it, and this one gets a golden cross right here, comes down, tests the 55, even the 200, and then what happens after that does put in about an 18% rally as well. So these are on, what I would consider a failure, and then basically the one before that was leading up all the way from $5 to, well, I suppose 1,100. So fair enough. So that's 6 iterations right there. 2 of them I would say are failures, but one of them even still gave you a nice move to the upside. Only one of them was really, really catastrophic if blindly took. And I would say that, overall at the end of the day, good enough for me. And yes, I am still long. I have managed my position with options, so I am kind of, hunkered down here. But what I do want to say is that as long as Bitcoin is above the yellow 21 exponential moving average, I'm actually happy to play it to that side, because not only is that just a nice way of kind of getting this one, again, historically speaking, but if we go down to our lower term timeframes from the same, from the same exchange that we were looking at yesterday and the days prior for the lower term timeframes, which is BitMexico, we do see essentially the same range. So yesterday we said that it was likely to test the top side of the short term range, about 89.50. We got that right in the blue box right there. Beautiful. But what's happening now? So right now, Bitcoin's right on the precipice can't speak, of actually closing on a higher high amongst this last 89.30 tick right here, which is on Mexico again. Let's go see what it is on GDAX. 89.35. Stamp is 89.30. Yeah, okay, so they're all about the same, it looks like to me. They're all the same. They're all the fucking same. Lazy, disgusting. No, just kidding. Terrible. But hey, if we do get a closure on a 4-hour dildo, especially above about 89.50, I would be looking for this range to be resolved to the upside. But there's multiple ways of doing this, and as you can see, it's not so cut and dry and easy here. I would say the more conservative traders would probably wait for a tick above this last high that we had within this consolidation at on 11th of May at 91.63, and all of the major exchanges are kind of within that vicinity as well. Any sort of a tick above there, I would look for extension all the way up to, at the very least, 9,400. And personally speaking, I do think that we have a short-term pullback there, probably setting up for another move to the upside somewhere around 97 and 9,800-ish region up here is where I think we'd ultimately be heading. Something like this, actually. I'll actually chart it out right now. Let's keep that in right there. Somewhere around this little stutter step leading into that fake out, does kind of make sense. So around, we'll call it 9,800. Basically around the gap on CMEs, by the way, which is technically around 99.50, but keep in mind that CMEs do have about $100 premium on spot price action right now, so that would actually align very well with 9,800. Just saying. Anyways, going back into this chart right here, again. Like I said, there's kind of 2 ways of doing this, and I actually think that waiting for a tick above this prior high right here is actually the more conservative way of doing it. Mostly because if we do take out that high, I think it would be very obvious continuation play here. Again, at least for another $250 to 9,400. And personally speaking, like I said, I do think that it would try higher. But could I also make the same sort of assessment on a 4-hour total closure that's just higher above our last little local high right here? I do think so, but this is kind of a massive range here. I'd feel more comfortable if it closed a 4-hour dildo above like 9,000 or 90.50. That would make me feel a little more comfortable. But technically speaking, our last high was right around 89.30, so it does create a little bit of a bigger range right there. Not optimal, but still kind of suggests the same sort of thing. So. By the same token of the downside, when we'll look at probability, I won't forget to look at probabilities today, or at least I'll do my best not to do my best not to forget about it. But to the downside, still the same areas yesterday, 8,500 on any sort of a 4-hour total closure, even 8,550 probably does it. And what do you know? That's right alongside the daily 21 exponential moving average, which is a little bit higher than that, kind of outlining the top side of this blue box as it is right now at about 8620, 8630-ish region. Also akin to the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of the past market cycle from 3,100 to 14,000 right here. So I do like all those areas for their confluence. And judging by the way that it's acting right now, I do think that it will eventually end up breaking to the upside. However, if we were to break to the downside below 8550, we'll call on a 4-hour total closure, I would look for an extension all the way down here towards 8100 to 8150-ish region, tap the 4-hour 200 exponential average once again, and also fulfill another test of this long-term uptrend coming in from the March 13th massive dump at 4,400, which has been, pretty damn good to price action ever since. Any sort of a test down there has been more or less a good buy. As you can see right here. And that would be meeting up right along this critical area right here, meeting up with this not order block, but liquid zone coming in from the last breakout and breakdown from both the March dump and also the April pump right here. So a really good historical area. And I do think that Bitcoin would come back down and test at the very least that area if it does break 8,500 or 8,550 on a 4-hour total closure. Personally speaking, I do think that if we tap this area again, it probably would break after a small bounce. However, again, my opinion is not necessary. My opinion is divorced from actual trading technical analysis. And I really want to make that distinction clear because my opinion is wrong all the time. I do not trade my opinion. I trade technical analysis. And if we do break below this region, any sort of a 4-hour total closure, it probably gets it anyways, below 8150, or even just a tick below the 9th of May dump, which is 8100 on Mexico as well. I would look for another $600 extension at the very least to like 7,500, probably another small bounce there. And then personally speaking, I do think that we would see like 7,100-ish region after that. And then I'd want to come back and reassess. I think it'd be getting way too far ahead of ourselves right now to kind of call that as it is. But for what it's worth, that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. And it's realistically the same sort of range as yesterday, with just another test of the top side of the range. So let's go see what our momentum oscillators for these lower term timeframes are printing right now, because they have been pretty damn good. Oh, by the way, before we get into this, this RSI is now available to anyone. It's completely public. It is if you just search up in the public library RSI and then use the and symbol EMA, look for the one that's made by that's published by Balipour, and it also has pig in the title. These guys have actually made it publicly available for everyone. Please thank them, and also please do support them on TradingView. Their goal is to make sure that they win the script of the month, and by liking it or favoriting it, that will help quite a bit. And they've been doing a lot of work for this community, and it's really helped out my own analysis and also my own trading. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, that fucking expected moves thing has just been insane. For anyone who's trading options, doesn't take a goddamn genius to use it. And I would also be massively appreciated if the community would support them as well. But fair enough. If you don't find value in it, then fair enough as well. But if you do, please do consider that. Anyways, okay, cool. So a couple of things of note here. We do see lower term time frame momentum oscillator still headed up. We see 4-hour Stokes nice and healthily to the upside, 3 hours in the same area, 2-hour kind of flip-flopping around, so a little bit of down right there, and hourly are probably going to be down as well. What does that tell us? Probably tells us that we're probably going to have a little bit of bifurcation here between the short-term time frames, so a little bit of an ebb and flow. Let's see what the momentum oscillators, the reverse Stoke indicator cross is showing right now, showing that the hourly is going to have downwards momentum as long as we are below 89.50. I like that because it's basically right where our last little swing high was on a 4-hour total closing basis. Also, I think on a 2-hour as well. Yeah, it is. In fact, we did close on a higher high on the 2-hour. Is that good enough though? I don't feel confident saying that. But however, if Bitcoin does close this next 2-hour total above 8,900, momentum to the short-term timeframes does go to the upside right at resistance too. I think that is, more or less a good thing. Looking at the 3-hour, it stays to the upside as long as we are above 87.50. Pretty damn good, and also does kind of outline, a nice little higher low to the downside as well. And the 4-hour remains to the upside as long as Bitcoin remains above 8,700 as well. Again, protecting that last little higher low right there. So what can we say? As long as Bitcoin remains above 8,700, the momentum from the short-term timeframes likely does end up to the upside. However, if Bitcoin does end below the 8,700-ish region, we very likely will come back down and test around the 85.50-ish base. That's where the short-term timeframes can be resolved, leading to actually a long-term trade around the 8,100-ish region. By the same token, to the upside, a little bit easier actually here at 80, at 89.50 on a on a 4-hour total closure. I'd feel a lot better with a closure above like 90.50, but it's right fucking there, man. It's right fucking there. Anyways, while we are here on the lower term timeframes, I do want to look at the historical volatility percentile, which is actually going back into a contraction phase, but it's contracting extremely rapidly here. So I do think that this aligns with Bitcoin more or less just playing within this range as it is right now, meaning the range that we've kind of been living in between about, and it's gonna get brought up to the upside naturally after that last little higher low that we put in right here, but 8,700 and about 89.50 where we are right now. So we just kind of tested the top side of it. Do we come back down and test the bottom side of it? Maybe, yeah. But more importantly, I'm looking for this to come back down below the 20 marker, and then we probably do set up for another short-term move, and that's going to be further verified by our lower-term time frames, like a 2-hour. Yes, already kind of getting there at the 20 marker, and then I want to see the hourly absolutely crush. Yes, indeed, and more importantly, the hourly is even more accurate here and gives something better to go off of because it does have that nice descending trend line, which does say that we've been contracting and coming to a nice apex somewhere around the 17th of May. So that's in actually 4 days, but realistically it's very, 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 very likely to break somewhere around here, which is the 14th of May, tomorrow, assuming that you're viewing this in Europe timing, maybe. And probably by the time that the Americans wake up, you'll be in Wednesday as well. Welcome to the future, baby. It's the same as yesterday, pretty much. Still got that coronavirus bullshit, man. But yeah, overall, I look at this as contracting, but a resolution very, very soon. Even the hourly historic volatility percentile kind of contracting in this fashion gives us enough impetus to very likely break the short-term range. So I would feel very confident with saying before tomorrow's over, we probably do either break up to like 9,400 or break down to 8,100ish region at the very least. To the upside, I think it's a little bit more interesting just because the upside's more open-ended. I do think from here. However, lower-term time frame RSI looking a little bit top-heavy. Looks like it wants to come down, to be fair. So short term, do I think that we have a little bit of downside here? Perhaps yes. By hourly, we don't. I mean, this chart's getting way too convoluted right now. I could kind of say the same thing, although technically speaking, there's no differences there. There's no nothing. So fair enough. Triple hourly, what do we have here? Same thing, no divergence or anything like that. So, it does look more or less healthy. I do think that Bitcoin is going to break to the upside here and probably test around like 90, 9,100, 9,400-ish region. That's a humongous region, probably 94. And that's going to set it up for looking better later. It's going to also lead on to the golden cross. And then I would really be targeting on any sort of a move above 9,400-ish region. I'd be targeting a move to the top side of the long-term range, which is around 9,800-ish region, which is also the big breakdown that we saw from late February of this year when Bitcoin went all the way from about $10,000 down to $4,400, and also the 618 Fibonacci retracement from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of the last market cycle from 3,100 to 14,000. Also, what else do we have? Also, if we throw in the volume profile, we're going to have some major levels in there too, as you can see, and also pretty much right around our last major macro high at about 10,000. And of course, as we alluded to before, the CMEs, the last CME gap coming in that region too. So if I did have to call it right now, I actually do think that Bitcoin does pop back up there first before anything else. But that's breaking my own rule of like kind of telling a death cross telling price action where it's looking at a gap and then thinking that price action is just going to naturally go there before anything else. No, really the trade to be made is on the other side of it. It's like when this gets filled, then I have a trade, not necessarily saying, oh, I'm going to trade up to there. That's a really bad strategy long term. I see a lot of people getting rocked into bad mindsets like that, and you can see that I'm even struggling with it right now too. So again, for me, the mindset of being a trader is like a constant battle. Actually, people think that you reach a stage where you get rid of all your emotions. That never happens, or at least I can tell you for myself, it's never happened. I just have gotten better at recognizing my emotions, and then I can say, oh, I'm feeling that emotion, or I'm going back into this sort of mindset again. It's time for me to consciously make the decision, hey, that's not the right decision in that situation. Anyways, I'm just talking to the TA nerds right now. By the way, all the people who are non-TA nerds, they've already left this video. It's all good, man. It's just you and me now, baby. Just you and me, and I couldn't be more happy about it. Anyways, as you can see right here, volume profile on CME gets a little bit more accurately. We're hovering around above the point of control right now, and I do like how that kind of is offering up a little bit of support as well. The longer that we say above, the better, essentially. And you do see that it's essentially a vacuum all the way up to the $10,000 high, and realistically, Yeah, realistically above there. I mean, above 10.5, things start to look very, very good, at least for another $1,000 rally to about 11,500. But again, I need to be very careful with the way that I say these sorts of things, because people like sometimes I think hear that and they're like, Krown just said 11,000. Bitcoin go to 11,000. Like, no. Understand the order of operations here. And still, for the macro, I become extremely bullish on Bitcoin above 11,500 weekly closure, or even just a tick above our last week's high at 10,074. It doesn't even need to get above this high right here anymore, 10,500. Just getting above last week's high is good enough to me. Now, short term, is there going to be an ebb and a flow? Yes, absolutely. Things don't go up in a straight line or down in a straight line, except for this right here. But just forget about that one. It never happened. It's like it never happened. And overall, it's usually going to be an ebb and a flow. I also do like the weekly moving averages here as well. Again, for the people in the TA program, I want to reference the 21 and 55. Look at these babies right here. Pretty damn good example of that. And what do you know? Long term, this one has had some good iterations of efficacy. You do see this bullish cross right here. Well, there's really only a couple ones really, but fair enough. You get where I'm going with that. And more importantly, with just looking at the 21, I really do like this for Bitcoin as it is right now. Later on, when Bitcoin gets another like 5 to 10 years of history, it'll move on to the monthly, most likely. Just that's the way that it is in traditional markets. So I'd imagine that once Bitcoin gets a little bit more maturity, it will move up there as well. But looking at this right here, we do see two major considerations for the long term. Whenever Bitcoin is on an open and close basis above the yellow 21 exponential moving average on the weekly, it's generally bullish. However, that's even further verified by the slope of the 21. So if Bitcoin is both above the slope, is both above the 21 and the slope of the 21 is positive, then or upward sloping, maybe better said, then we're bullish for like the long term. You do see going all the way back on over here, going back to 2012. Remember that movie 2012, terrible movie. But as long as Bitcoin remained that positive slope, and even dipped below it a few times, but the slope remained either neutral to positive, telling you that this baby's not done just yet. Same thing to the downside over here, below and negative slope, bad, very bad. Only happened a couple times in Bitcoin's history though, to be fair. And then over here, beautiful, and then over here, bad, and then over here, beautiful, and then over here, bad. And then more recently, we do seem to be hovering well above as it is right now. Still a lot of weeks to go, to be fair. We are only halfway there on hump day, but so far so good, it looks like. And of course, we have a positive slope on that as well. And momentum oscillators are looking more or less fine here too. We do see weekly Stokes reaching up towards the bullish control zone soon. They will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin price action is above 68.20 on a weekly closing basis. So I'm not saying that can't happen, but Bitcoin does have a lot of work to do to really turn the weekly momentum to the downside. As far as weekly RSI goes, it looks to me like we're kind of still within this channel, we actually probably broke this channel last week and we just retested it this week. That's kind of what I said on CMEs, but I think it's actually more obvious on spot price action right here. Then again, when I start to draw the lines, am I just drawing lines and making weird fingerprints? Am I seeing some Jesus toast right now? Maybe. Let's go check out CMEs. Yeah, CMEs is a little bit different here. As you can see, this is more aggressively downward sloped, and it does work a lot better here. And I do trust wedge formations in RSI a lot more than I do on price action, and a lot more on CMEs than I do on fucking spot to begin with for Bitcoin. Just specifically saying, but if we do see the weekly close above the 56 read right here, that will be a damn good indication that probably this is just a retest of a broken wedge, and we are going to be getting ready for a move up into the bullish control zone. And that's kind of what I want to talk about right here. So I do actually still, I feel kind of silly for saying this, but I actually do still feel like the upside is more likely, and I do feel justified in holding long a little bit here with some very obvious areas of management. I mean, it's pretty damn easy to trade to be made, because I was getting long at around 82.50. Fucking goddamn, man, I can't get my words out properly today. And so any sort of move below the critical area that we spoke about earlier, even for the short-term timeframes, I can just take profit on that trade. If I really want to manage it in maybe a more sophisticated way, I can use options, but very, very easy trade to be managing going forwards here. And while we are on this topic, is there anything else on the lower-term timeframes I want to reference? I don't think so, no. Let's go to the 12-hour. What's the 12-hour looking like? The 12-hour of peace and prosperity. Actually interesting to hear. So we do see this long-term trend line coming in from where? Coming in from late February lows, right? Late February lows was right here, connected with this area right here. So getting actually the dump of March 13th, and then also calling this low right here at 6,500, and then it looks like it's actually about to test it and perhaps even more aggressively turn it back up to the upside on this next tick. If that does happen, I would feel very confident with saying that that Bitcoin is likely to test the upside and break the short-term upside regions that we spoke about earlier. Let's see where this would officially cross though, because technically right now it is actually still to the downside. So we have a nice indicator for that. Thank you, Bali. And it sounds weird when I say it like that. Thanks, Bali. It's great, man. 87.30 is kind of the area to beat. So that actually does align pretty damn well. If you recall back to the 4 hour, still showing about the same area at 8,700. Also kind of like our last little spike right here too. So as long as Bitcoin's closing above there on this next 12-hour dildo, I do think upside is imminent to the moon. No, just kidding. Jesus Christ, I should never say that. Sorry. Edit that one out. I've never edited any one of these videos, so that can't happen. But fair enough. Anyways, okay, so looking at the daily, we see daily stocks going to be down, and they're going to be down for a while, but we do have a nice trend line forming here, although it's very far away, so fair enough. It's actually not very relevant. We're going to be staying down on this one as long as Bitcoin's below about 99.30-ish region. So basically, as long as Bitcoin's below 10,000, pressure is on to the downside from a daily perspective. I'd imagine 2 days going to be equally as nasty. Yeah, 9,400, so I actually do like that area, and we are closing one tonight, which is interesting. And 3-day, 99.30 as well, so quite up there. Now I do want to reference a 2-day one more time. Now I alluded to this yesterday, but I want to do a little bit more on it today. So not only do we have the 2-day dildo golden cross, but we also see that historically speaking, when Bitcoin's above the 200 simple, this white moving average right here, it's more or less good. Again, terrible, very unsophisticated way of doing this, but just looking at the slope and Bitcoin's relationship to that, you get where I'm going with it. And then of course having the golden cross on top of that, which was confirmed on 2 ticks ago actually, and we've come down and tested it already. I mean, that is very, very similar to what happens in the past. We do see a golden cross right here. Bitcoin comes down actually beforehand and tests it. I would consider this a test, and then massive move to the upside. We have this example right in over here. Bitcoin gets a golden cross, massive move to the downside. I mean, this is a fucking crash right there. 25.25% to the downside, but that sets up for a move from 300 to 20,000. And then of course the one from the Genesis, which is kind of doesn't really count. But this one over here, let's also measure this one out too. I'm just curious what it showed. Yeah, 28% to the downside. And what do we have on this one from top to bottom thus far? About 20%. So it is a little bit an outlier in that sense that it hasn't gone as much as the other ones. But it's also, I do think that it's relevant to think more importantly, it gives a nice piece of edge to be managing off of, which is what makes any sort of a good trade anyways at the 200 simple, which is where 8,500. Where is 8,500? Where all the lower term time frame areas meet up as well. Beautiful. Absolutely fucking beautiful. So let's go into the lower term time frames and look at the expected moves chart. With those areas in mind, again, 85.50 to the downside, and I'm gonna be more conservative here and say 90.50 to the upside. Although technically speaking, I'd say 89.50 probably does do it, to be fair. And I'm curious what CMEs would show too. CMEs actually did close on a higher high there, so maybe I'm the one who's being a little bit too conservative here. Okay, so let's change this to 90.50, and we'll give this one $50 to the upside too. Okay, so we're using a 4 hour right now. So on the next 4 hour total closure, what's the probability that we close above the upwards target at 90.50? 17.14%. That's actually decently high. That's within the realm of of likely probability. Actually, anything above 16% is actually very good. Now, by contrast, the downside probability is 3.38%. So is it likely here? It's within the realm of possibility, but I wouldn't say that it's the most likely. Technically speaking, from a mathematical standpoint, it's not more likely than the upside right now. But we're only looking at a 4 hour. Let's look at a 12 hour. 12 hour shows upside 26.5%, downside 17.25%. This one shows more or less that it's still kind of anyone's game here. It's how to interpret that one as anything above 16% is you know, it's likely at that point. On the daily, what does the daily show? A little bit below 33% versus 26% to the downside. So again, both showing that, you know, both sides are quite likely here, but taking that one step further and using future bars as our marker. Sorry, I should probably take it off as well. We do see a positive slope on this, which I do think bodes better for the bulls too. Let's put it on current as well. I'm just curious to see. Interesting. Okay, so it's 30.5% versus 28% on current. On 12-hour, it's 23.5% versus almost 20%. So it's a lot closer when we do use current, which should be used, to be fair. So technically speaking, it is a lot more closer than what I was showing before. I do apologize about that. Let's look at this one right here. Still on the 4-hour, very, 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 very much in favor of the upside compared to the downside. But realistically, it's anyone's game. And actually on the lower term timeframes, to me on the lower term timeframes, it does look like it wants to spike again lower. I mean, this looks like it wants to come back down to like 87 and test there at the very least. Maybe we put another higher low there. That'll be phenomenal for the Bulas. But it does look like short term, it does want to kind of ebb and flow. We just tested the top side of the range. Let's go test, you know, maybe the median of the range, and if that fails below 87. Then 85.50 for the short term. That gets broken. Then another $600 move to the down, or sorry, $500 move to the downside. Pretty damn good. Okay, all right. Let's go look at world markets really quick. Nas futures looking like we hit our target to the upside and down. Doesn't always work out that perfectly, but sometimes that TA hocus pocus actually does work. Now I would actually be looking for reaccumulation here on Nas futures as long as this blue box holds, which I do consider that test, or sorry, that move to the downside as a test. And I'm going to move this up now because we can be more aggressive with it, or at least I think so. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but as long as it holds about 89.50, I think overall fine. Although I'm sure all the wedge bros are going crazy over this, or the channel bros, I guess. Or I guess if you're doing a wedge going back all the way over here, I think wedges are like the least reliable pattern, as I've been saying for years now. Lower term timeframes, like an hourly, looks like looks like it's probably going to come back down to the bottom side of this range at 9,000. But I do think that it will bounce there again, actually, most likely, and just play at a range between 9,000 and 92.50ish region, and then the resolution of 92.50 likely does actually break the topside target and lead up to 94.50, or sorry, no, that would be the top side, which is also the 884 fib right there, but much higher after that if it were to be broken at about 9600ish region. Looks pretty damn good, but that's not the way that the rest of the market looks. E-mini futures right here look a lot more obvious, look a lot less strong, but kind of the same areas do apply, and we can move this down. Hold on. We can move this down. So it's very obvious that the techs are leading this, as you'd imagine. But I can kind of say that about the same thing for this one as well. As long as it doesn't break below about 28.20, I do think that this reaccumulates and gives another try back up here. You can see that it's kind of trying to put in some sort of a triangular consolidation. However, if it does break below 28.20, I would look for a retest of this low right here at about 27.70. Probably a small bounce and then continuation down here towards the 27.30ish region, 2700 base. That's where I do think that another medium-term time frame bounce could very likely occur. By the same token, I'm not really bullish on this one until it takes out 2 days, or sorry, the 10th of May's high right here at let's just say the number 29.47. Okay, cool. What about gold? We haven't checked on that one in a few days, but looks like it's still hanging above 1700. You know, bears are going to be calling this a descending triangle. Bulls are going to be calling it a symmetrical triangle. I think that you can make the case for both, but due to the former trend, I would lean to the upside here. I still think that 1800 is most likely, as long as we don't get any sort of a daily total closure below about 1680, 1685. If 1685 was broken to the downside, I would look for a move down to about 1620 to 1630ish region. But even then, I don't really get more bearish for any sort of a move than that. The monthly still looks fine to me on top of that, and I do still think that 1800 long term looks okay. Again, this is coming from someone who's like not a fan of gold. I don't own any gold. I don't care to own any gold. I think it's kind of silly. Silver even more so. But hey, for the gold bugs out there, they've been having a good time, and for good reason. You know, it's been one of the better charts in the world, actually. Okay, cool. What else do we want to look at? Maybe do a quick look at GBDC. GBTC using the 200 as support thus far, but I don't really think it's leading here. Don't really think it's following, or sorry, I think it's more so following. Definitely Golden Cross is much further away. And, you know, at the end of the day, we should give the bears, or not we should give, like, I'm just giving my opinion here. You're free to your own opinion, of course. But the bears do have a major, massive, unbelievably strong thing in their favor, and that is weekly trends down, man. Also the monthly trends down too. You know, so at the end of the day, the trend is your friend until the end of the trend, and we just put another, you know, local high right there. But I do think that if Bitcoin is going to have a chance to actually blast through and kind of surprise a lot of people, as a lot of people are really turning to bearish for a move down to like 7,000 or 6,000, which I think is very possible to happen. But I need to see things confirmed first before I jump on that train too. I do think that is very possible. It does green dildo its way back up and test some upside first, and you know, and then we'll probably decide if this thing really wants to revert the whole market cycle or not. That would be likely coupled with a massive boost up in open interest above, at the very least, 850 million, preferably 900 million, and very obviously and unequivocally argued against above 1 billion. I think that would be just that would be just phenomenal for Bulaws right there. I guess we'll quickly take a look at Mr. Buterol and Mrs. Litecoin. These ones obviously look bearish as well, but they're going to do whatever Bitcoin does. So why am I looking at this bullshit again? Okay, so that's enough of that. Let's go look at Link. Is Link doing anything different versus Bitcoin? Yes, it is in an uptrend, as it typically is, versus the dollar. I'm curious how this one's shaping up here though. Versus the dollar looks decent as well. I'm very much long term. I like it. I do think that if it came back down to like two and a third, it would be an absolute gift. But is it gonna? You know, it kind of does look like it wants to come down a little bit in the short term, but long term still kind of holds its composure here. I do like that. Let's see what all the other major movement averages are saying here too. I feel like I'm kind of flying blind on this one. Weekly looks fine. Long-term daily does look like it could very easily come back down and test around the 200, but I'd look at that as an opportunity. I don't think it has momentum it does have the momentum to break to the upside. I don't know. I don't feel confident in this one. I'm just going to sidestep this one. Let's go back to Bitcoin. I feel a lot more confident on Bitcoin. Bitcoin ranges are pretty much the same as yesterday. Any sort of a 4-hour total closure above, let's call it 89.50. If you want to be more conservative, a tick above this high right here at 91.63 likely does propel another $300 move to the upside, about 9,400-ish region. I would look for a short-term pullback there and then continuation to the top side of this area. I mean, again, realistically, when I call continuation from something like that, you know, after a pullback, like 2 moves before it happens, that's bullshit. That's analyst type bullshit. But personally speaking, I do think that would happen, although I really wait for, you know, a confirmation above that region. And then, yes, I would target this region right around here. By the same token, any sort of a move below even 87.40 actually does likely propel another test back down to our blue box here at about 85.50. That's where the short-term timeframes can be resolved. And if we do break 85.50 to the downside on a 4-hour total closure, even a 2-hour probably gets it, I would look for a move at the very least to 81.50. That's where things get very interesting for the long term. If Bitcoin does break down below there, I would look for extension at the very least to 7,500, which is going to be like another $600, maybe even $700 move, another medium-term time frame bounce, and then probably continuation of the downside. So that's where I'll leave it off today. I'm going to be signing off now. Take care, and until next time.